And we are live. Welcome back, party people. We are here, my faithful servants of God. Thank you for joining me this evening. So, we're going to be doing a testimonial tonight, and we're going to be going over YouTube channels, Touching the Afterlife, which is about what happened with this young man's journey, his testimonial with, you know, his experience when he was in the music industry and what happened to him during that little run or that little stint in his life where he thought that he wanted music. And we're just going to go over it and give our commentary on it. Let me share my screen. All right, here we go. And then let's go. It's just pretty long, so I'm going to try to get through all of it. I'm going to just speed it up really quick here. All right, let's go.
Believed this is it, this is truth. I hate religion. I thought that Christianity was something that was made to control people and lead them away from raising their consciousness levels. So that was my belief system at the time. And obviously in and around that time was the first time our group did Britain's Got Talent. We did quite well, we got to the final. And I started a new, and what it was my group was called Nemesis to the final BGT back in 2008. We made a group called Journey. His name was Kyle, dancing. I remember I got into bed and I lay down, and immediately I felt my soul get ripped out of my body, and I fell very, very, very quick. And I remember looking at that and thinking, this place doesn't look good. I can tell that it was demonic. Wherever that was, it was very, very demonic. Then it went pitch black. And when I tell you this darkness is, you can't even see your hand here. So basically the winning of the show, the money, the house, everything, what do I need to do for it? And it was a white scroll with gold trim around the edge. And it was a contract that I had to sign in blood. I was now seeing it for myself. And I knew immediately what that meant and what it was. And immediately I felt myself fly back into my body. I opened my eyes, looked to my left, and there's this demonic entity. It looked about 4 feet tall, jet black, standing next to my bed, looking at me. When you're around these things, you get this immense feeling of fear that you can't even move, like you can't do anything. You're just stuck, almost like you're paralyzed. I'm not okay. I'm really not. Like,
Wow.
what did I just see?
Hi, welcome to Touching the Afterlife. This is Isha. Isha has been holding atheists as well as involved in various occult practices. Even a finalist, Britain's Got Talent, and he's here today to share with us his powerful testimony.
I just want to say before we get started that there are a lot of people nowadays that think that it's cool, and then they think that it's no big deal if you get involved in the occult. Because you are just trying to figure things out in life. But I'm telling you, these types of things are very dangerous, and it could end your life, and you could not get another chance to be redeemed. And it's so important that we not only sound the alarm of that these are unsustainable ways to live your life, but this very thing could end your life. And not everybody. So there's a lot of people that went down this route of um, entering into the occult to get into some type of profession that they want, not just in music industry, but in sports and in corporate America, in politics. People use these occult practices to get ahead, to cut the line. And that it's very important to understand that that could be your very last time even getting there. You might not even have the opportunity to repent, to be redeemed. So let's get into this.
I didn't really know what the spirit world actually was. Growing up, things were always a bit strange for me. I used to sort of see things, but not really know anything about it, because you obviously, when you're young, you've got a bit of an imagination anyway. So sometimes you think, okay, whatever, it's nothing. But one of my earliest memories in life was living in, I believe it was near central London, and my family lived on a second. So and I was locked in from the inside as well, so they could not get in. So they had to actually call fire brigade out to come and knock the door down and then let me out. So one of my best memories of that day is my brother and sister passing digestive biscuits under the door to me so I could eat. So I was in the instructions to move away from the door, maybe go into the bed and just wait in the bed until they knocked the door down so I was safe. So I did that. So this memory turned into a situation where I was crawling underneath the bed, under the covers. And I remember kind of getting the sense that I wasn't alone. And imagine I'm crawling from like where the pillow is and I'm heading down the bed. From this side, this little boy comes up like that and stops. And we're looking at each other head on. And I remember clear as day, like he didn't have a t-shirt on. He had this like dark, pale skin, dark eyes, shortish black hair. He's probably similar age to me at the time. I think I was about 40. He went my way, I went the other way. And you would think it's crazy. You think it's a dream, but I was fully conscious. I was fully awake. The door came down about 10 minutes later. And I was already out the bed at that point. I hadn't gone to sleep. What I saw. So that was a bit of an indication that something had already opened the door in my life that I didn't open myself. I was already at that stage open to spiritual forces interacting with me physically. So that kind of set the stage for my early life kind of growing up from there. So the next stage of my life was nothing short of traumatizing on a daily basis. So I used to get very, very serious spiritual attacks night after night after night after night. It was vicious. I got, on an average night, I'll probably have about 5 or 6 different horrific dreams, like horrific. And this went on every single night for years. And it got to the point I actually asked for help. Now, me and my parents at the time, we didn't talk as much as we do. Attack, and it would sort of non-stop. And it got to the point where I couldn't actually wake up from the dream. So after a couple of years, I realized that thinking, right, I need to jump out of a window. I need to run into a road and be hit by a car. Like that's generally how I used to think in my dreams to wake myself up. And for a period of time, that worked as well. And then they realized, okay, that's what he's doing. So they will then change scenarios. So if I'm trying to run out the road, all of a sudden there's no cars. Or if I'm trying to jump out of a window, all of a sudden there's no window there. So they started blocking that. They were trying to find any way there. Obviously, at the time, I didn't realize that I was spiritually traveling. My spirit wasn't in my body. So if they trap you out there long enough, it's like you have an empty vessel here that's just waiting for demonic possession or demonic influence to a high degree. So it's in their interest to keep you out of your body. So yeah, like that for quite some time.
And this was in your dreams? This was in your dreams, correct?
Yeah, every single night. I used to have at least 6, 7 of these every night without fail.
Can you talk a little bit about it? I'm not super familiar with the astral projection. I know you're going to go into that later, but is this a form of it?
Yes, it's a form of it. It was something that I was doing, a way in which you can separate your spirit from your body. Now, there's a process that you can actually go through and learn, which allows you to practice it and then be able to do it on will. So I used to be in communities of people who used to practice it, and they would manifest in your room if they wanted to. And
so
it was really
do you guys
strange
see notice that he is inviting different types of spiritual practices that allowing these spirits to
it was almost like a switch I couldn't turn on or off. It just happened when it happened, but I didn't have control. So as I got a bit older, I then kind of moved away from being more of the New Age movement. And that's when I started learning all the techniques for how to astral project, how to train the same thing. They're completely different practices. One of them is actually conscious and being able to affect your dreams. That's what lucid dreaming is. So it's almost like you wake up in your dream and realize, hold on a minute, I'm actually dreaming. So then you can start manipulating your environment to have a better experience, to the point where you can actually stand up in your bed, look at your body as if you're dead. Like some of the testimonies I've seen on the channel before, where people talk about, oh, I feel good, my chest doesn't hurt anymore. And then they look down and see the dead body and they're like, it's similar to that basically. It's a conscious choice you're making to separate your spirit. and you can actually see your body. You can see everything in the room around you. Powers you wouldn't normally have. You could fly through the ceiling. You could just float away. You've got amazing vision. I could see into people's houses traveling. It was more to connect to the spirit world, because the belief system around that is kind of in that sort of direction where you have what they used to call ascended masters or spirit guides. So that was the kind of direction I went. But I'll come to that in a bit. And that was kind of the next stage of life. But yeah, it kind of developed through a YouTube channel that I used to watch. And ironically, the channel that got me into it was also the channel that freed me from it at the same time. Over a period of about 4 or 5 years, I think I went out through the same, back into like the childhood sort of neck of the woods. So after a period of time, nightmares got severe, and I was trying to figure out ways in which I could manage them. Now, one thing that I always found interesting about a lot of my nightmares is I always felt like I was falling. I always felt like if I was going into a nightmare, I'll be falling. There was one dream I used to have quite a lot as well, where I would be on my mattress as a child, and I'll be in a house that's unfamiliar to me up the stairs, but my mattress is falling down the middle of the shaft, right in the middle. And I remember there was one where my dad's kind of reaching out, trying to grab me to save me, and I'll just fall into this dark pit, and then I'll wake up in my bed. And when I'm in the pit, it's pitch black, but I can see certain lights and certain things. And then as my eyes adjust, those lights and things, like the light from my alarm clock, as an example, like the red light, I'll see something else, and it'll be like another light that's coming from the street light outside, which kind of indicates that I could still see things, but I was halfway conscious, halfway not conscious, but I was still seeing it. So it was like the early stages of me kind of being familiar with the fact that things out there that aren't easy to explain. But because I wasn't a Bible reader, I didn't really engage with that at all. I actually hated the idea of religion, because I hated going to church. My mum was raised Catholic. She's not a Catholic anymore, but we went to a Catholic church in North London. I think it's called the Church of England, and I absolutely hated it. Absolutely hated it. I didn't get a feeling that I was learning anything. I was really, really bored, and I dreaded going there every single Sunday. The best time of my life was the hours. So that automatically kept me away. But one thing I find very interesting is a lot of people that go down the New Age route, there's not that many that come from atheism or strict atheism. A lot of these guys used to be Catholics or Mormons who started to realize there were things wrong with their sect, and they look for something, and they tend to look for the thing that's the most opposite to what they were raised in. And the New Age movement is absolutely perfect for them.
That is so interesting that he said a lot of the people who are into this are from the Catholic faith and the Mormon faith. And they're both are, they have both of them actually have extra biblical books that they use as their primary source for teaching, which it should be the Bible, but they have extra biblical books that they wrote on there for their own. Jehovah Witnesses too, but the Catholics have a different Bible than Christians, and Mormons have a different Bible than Christians. Now, I know that people who are not actually that don't have any understanding group everybody together, but Catholics are not Christian and neither are Mormons. And if you're into the faith at all, if you're a Mormon or a Catholic or a Christian, if you are actually a practicing, like a devout person in that faith, then you will know why I'm saying that. Catholics are not Christian, and neither are Mormons, neither are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they would all say the same thing. They're not Christian. It's a different thing. It's similar, but it's not the same at all. It's almost like the Muslim faith. They say they worship the Heavenly Father of the Old Testament, and they denounce Jesus. But Christians know and understand that you cannot worship the Father without Christ. Like, there's no way that any of us can go to the throne of glory and talk to God. There's no way without Christ. Anyway, so let's continue. But it's interesting that he said there are a lot of people from the Mormon and Christian, and Catholic faiths.
In a sort of way, because it just accepts everybody, and it puts power into your hands to say you are the God. It's your energy. You can manifest whatever you like. So they all lead in the same direction, which is you are God. You can manifest. You need to raise us to the fifth dimension so we can break out of this consciousness and in what we used to call, interestingly enough, Christ consciousness. And that was the field we needed to get to for perfection, where we then become creator gods and we're happy and create our own environment. And that's the kind of direction the New Age movement was going in. And you can do that by connecting to your higher self, or as we used to call it, the divine feminine. which is another very interesting thing, because when you look at how they are changing the world around at the moment, where they're trying to make women men and men women, one agenda they're attacking is the masculine male. It's quite obvious to anybody who looks at what's going on TV to see that they're attacking masculinity. They see it as, like they say, toxic masculinity. They don't like it, and they raise the idea of women men in that aspect. And it's just another attack on God's order. It's just about removing the ideology of what a man was meant to be, what a woman was meant to be, and the unit they become when they come together. And it's an attack on that. So all of these practices, as you come out of it and you see the truth, you see the reasons why certain belief systems are in place and how it's leading you away from God. And all of it is designed to lead you as far away from the Lord as the next phase. So it was pretty intense. So the next kind of part kind of then led into all the astral projection. And then I flew to Ireland and had quite an experience out there as well. So yeah, it was pretty intense. That was in and around sort of 12, 13 years old.
Wow. I think it's interesting how the devil tries to play from this playbook of, I'm going to meet a need that you have, a longing. And tell us, Isha, how it went from there at 13. What happened next?
Yeah, so I went from where I was at that point, and I was like, yeah, I'm just fully atheist. The dreams were still quite bad. And then as I kind of grew, what really triggered it? So this was probably nearer to about, I would say 16 years old is probably when it started. And a family member introduced me to a YouTube channel called Spirit Science. And I remember watching a video, I think it was called The Video of Creation. And all it is an alternative explanation of what happened from creation all the way through to where we are now and what we need to do to get back to where we were before. Now, at the time, obviously, I wasn't a Bible reader. I didn't know any stories of the Bible. Now I kind of look back. I'm still getting to grips with the Bible. I'm reading it. That's one of the things I've really made a covenant with God recently to say, I am going to get better with reading my Bible, because if you don't know the Bible, you don't know God. So I'm making more of an effort to go through it. But I knew elements of the Bible from certain sections already, and I knew a lot of the stories, so I could draw parallels to what I was doing before and what I believed in and what the New Age movement was trying to lead me towards. So like we all know, right, the devil, he doesn't really create anything. He uses us. We're the ones that create things, but he uses us to create his world and his vision, right? Now, if he's not creative, what is he going to do? He's going to counterfeit. So the whole Spirit Science video, it mirrors almost perfectly with Genesis. So it talks about how at the beginning we were amazing beings. We had this like what's the word for it? It's memory, which was like a movie. You can remember everything from your first day up until that point, like a movie, 4K, like brilliant memory, amazing vision. You can see everything and anything. All your senses are heightened. And that's basically a description of the spirit world and how we are when we go to heaven, which ironically is what it was like in the Garden of Eden before they fell. So it's again mirroring what happened in the Garden of Eden. And then it describes a time where people fell and there was a great fall. They call it the Great Fall. They don't explain why it happened. They just say that we fell and we lost our memory. We lost all of our strength. Our lives became shorter and we fell down in consciousness. That's what they say it is. And then they say we have, I think it was about 24,000 years to go back to Christ consciousness. And if we don't achieve it, then we will never go back. So that whole ideology was you have to meditate. You have to raise your vibration, your energy, like people like to say. And you need to raise that to a level where if everybody gets to that level, the energy fields around the world will be strengthened and you can raise the world into the next dimension, which is going to be a much better dimension. Everyone's going to be happier. It's all love, all singing, all dancing. And the people that were doing this work were mostly called either like star seeds or indigo children. And I remember asking someone what the difference was. And one woman told me indigo children were born 1987 and before, I believe, and star seeds were after that. So they considered me like an indigo child. And for anyone who's wondering what this vibe is with Crown, he's talking about indigo, especially made an album, I believe, called Indigo. Now you can see why. And that's why it's got all this sort of mystic, pagan imagery on the video. And anyone that's been on his most recent tour would have seen very strange imagery, including like devilish looking cherubim in the background.
I did see on Chris Brown's, let me see if I can find it so we can yeah, I remember anyway. And yeah. And yep, let's see. Look. This is it. This is one of the pieces of artwork. Come on. But yeah, this is what he's talking about. The Yep, let me finish. Let me share my screen again. All right, let's finish.
When you know these things, you start to draw the lines and you see, okay, there's telling pagan stories essentially, but they're hiding it and wrapping it around things like entertainment and artistry and spirituality is like basically the buzzword for it, right? So they're just hiding it in plain sight. So I was learning all of this knowledge, and I was like, oh my days, this is the truth. This is it. This is what I can do, because people always want to get their hands on something that's tangible. They don't want to have faith. People want to have control. But what that is pride. People want to have that pride to say, I did this, I did that, my works did this. And that's ultimately what led people to fall in the first place. They believed, oh, well, I need to have all that knowledge. Why is God holding out on me? That's the lie that Satan told Eve in the Garden of Eden. And it's the same lie that he's telling us now. You guys have got this. You guys can do this yourself. You need to raise your consciousness level. You've got to work hard on that. And together we're going to come up to the fifth dimension and live amazing, beautiful lives. And a lot of people that believe that will then wake up in hell. And they're not going to be happy that they were deceived so easily. And I went all the way down that rabbit hole. And it all leads in one direction. Once you go down that way, it leads down to the alien deceptions. And I found my way to things like the Pleiadians. So there's a whole belief system in space. You'll probably see it from ancient astronaut theory and stuff like that. It's always on History Channel and Sky, interestingly enough. And they'll talk about ancient civilizations, and they'll always attribute it to aliens, but never do they consider the fact that these aliens could actually just be demonic spirits from another realm. They always have to say it's aliens, when in reality it's just demons and fallen angels. They're essentially the same thing. It's just Hollywood has trained people to see aliens as one thing and demons and God as another. So we need to bring those things together because they're very much the same. Now, I used to watch videos of people channeling alien entities. I think they used to call it Council of Light, and the belief system around that is there's an alien galactic federation that it wants to help mankind, and we're trapped in this prison and we can't get out of it. So they're basically trying to help us spiritually. They're going to send people down to help us, and they're going to raise the consciousness level so that we can break out of this 3D life where we can travel around the solar system. That is kind of where that belief system goes. They also have things like the Archons. They believe in the Anunnaki, which is also on the History Channel on the ancient alien theories. They believe the Archons and the Anunnaki were the ones that actually created mankind. And they have the drawings of these beings, very, very tall, with almost like pelican heads. And they were actually drawn on the side of Egyptian temples and pyramids. And they believe them to be the Anunnaki, who were the ones that came from space, and they fought a galactic war. They took over Earth and they enslaved all of mankind to do all of their work. And we're still on it all now. And this whole reptilian theory, they're controlled by this reptilian race. Which is also very interesting when you look at some of the testimonies I've seen on some channels, and they describe some of the demons they see in hell as having scaly skin and eyes like reptiles. So that's not another indication that you're being deceived, and that what you're seeing are actually demonic entities masquerading as aliens or something else. The parallels become very, very obvious. And it was quite fortunate for me because I've always had the mentality that, okay, look, I'm quite strong in my belief. However, I will always entertain the idea that I could be wrong, because I always want to ensure that I'm on the right path, no matter what it is. I don't want to be fooled or misled, even though for a very long time I was, because I genuinely believed this is it. This is the truth. I hate religion. I thought that Christianity was something that was made to control people and lead them away from raising their consciousness levels. So that was my belief system at the time. And then I went to the next step where I was starting to actually practice astral projection. This was in and around 2014 roughly. I started practicing it because I couldn't do it on will. And I wanted to be able to just lie down, meditate, plan. I'm out and I can fly around and have fun. So I started practicing the techniques. I watched a lot of videos on it. I started practicing quite a lot. Now, 9 times out of 10 when I tried to do it, especially at night, I'll just fall asleep. But then my spirit was because I had it always like certain things that normally you feel before you know your spirit's exited your body. One of them is you start seeing like flashy lights. Then everything starts to shake. It's like you before you come out, and then you can travel. So I used to practice that all the time, and I used to have, I would say, unofficial spirit guides, because I used to have these dreams where I was being shown things. I had one where I was being shown how to mask my energy. So this, I remember being chased. It looked like I was in the middle of Italy or something along those sort of lines, like Venice. And I was running through the streets, and there was a crowd chasing me. And this being was kind of talking to me. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it. And it was saying, do this, and then they won't be able to find you. So I'd like concentrate in a certain type of way. Then all of a sudden, there as well, he looked maybe 15. He was also being trained by these. He knew that he was a real person from somewhere, but he was going through training the same way I was. And that was just one example of all the things which show me the constellations in the sky, because these things are very important to them. They base a lot of their ideology off of them. So I remember I was flying through space. Now, I believe this potentially to be either in the second heaven or leading towards the second heaven. And I was flying through space, and I was seeing planets flying by. Like I was going at a ridiculous speed. And I stopped at this one planet. And I wouldn't say it was a big planet. It was relatively small. At least from the vantage point that I had, I was kind of floating above it. And I remember looking at it, and it was a black planet with a massive black skull on the top of the planet. And there was lightning flashing all around it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't talk to you like we talk to each other. Telepathic. So I could hear what he was saying, and he could hear what I was thinking. And I remember him saying to me, this is where we're from. And I remember looking at that. This place doesn't look good. But I'm still not putting everything together at this point, because I'm still not going down the route of I might be wrong. But it just looks dark. Looking back at it now, I can tell that it was demonic. Wherever that was, it was very, very demonic. And then I went back into my body, and I had lots of experiences like that where I come out my body, I'd fly around. There was one I saw as well. I believe I went into it. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But on my way out of my body, I remember. So what we used to believe in the New Age movement were what we would perceive as demons. We used to call them shadow people, and they were to be kind of avoided. I remember looking into someone's ceiling into their bedroom, and there was somebody lying on their bed, and one of these shadow people was standing next to their bed, looking at them. This tall, dark, demonic-looking spirit, and it almost looked like it was sucking energy out of them. I could see almost like this rainbow of light at this person's face, going into the demon's mouth, almost like it was absorbing their energy. And I just saw it as, oh, the shadow people are just, it didn't really register to me like that.